Good morning and welcome to Farm Factor. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom. Today, Kyle Bauer is at the K-State Extension Field Day in Dickinson County, learning one way to supply water to livestock pastures without a nearby water source. First, he visits with Carl Garten, who is developing a solar pump and tire tank watering project. Then with K-State's Herschel George, a watershed specialist. Next is this week's Kansas Soybean update, and then Kyle's back with Herschel George. We'll finish today with Ken Bowell with the NRCS. It's all coming up on Farm Factor. Stay tuned.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. This segment is brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
Good morning and welcome back to Farm Factor. First, Kyle Bauer visits with Carl Garten, who's developing a solar water pump and tire tank project.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer in Dickinson County. Have the opportunity to visit with Carl Garten. They are installing a solar-powered pumping unit on a farm that he's involved with. Carl, why did you want to develop this project?
Well, this site here, we have a little over a quarter grass, about 170 acres. The only place we have water on it is clear on the east side, so the cattle have to walk a full mile from the west side to get to water. Soil type here is very sandy. We have tried putting ponds before, just can't hold enough water. And so we've looked at putting in a well. We have good water, groundwater here. It's, in this case here, we're about 50 foot to water. And so we looked at using a solar system, or I even looked at a windmill. Cost-wise, the windmill was going to be a little, and then the other challenge you have with the windmill is finding people to work on those and that type of thing. Most people that are, put in pumps are willing to put in solar pumps too. And so I did have several cooperators or plumbers here that were willing to put the system in. In this case here, we decided to put it in ourselves with the help of Herschel George from K-State, and made a demonstration out of it too, and that way we could kind of stretch this project out. You hire somebody, they're going to come in here and want to do it real fast, and this way we can stretch it out and still make it a demo. But mainly so we could get full utilization of this pasture. With having water clear on one side, we don't get cattle coming clear to the west side to utilize the grass fully. This pond is located about 3/4 of a mile into the pasture, and so we got water now on the west side. They still can go to the east side and water there too, and so we'll have two watering sources out here in the mile distance.
Will you normally use this pasture in the summer or the winter?
We do a little both. Usually we'll put cattle out here. My operator that's here uses it early in the spring when he's still putting embryos or AI in those cows. And then once they're all bred, he'll then move them on off of here, and then this pasture will set completely empty until mid-September, so about 2.5, 3 months, and then we'll utilize it again early in the winter here. So right now he's got about 30, 40 cows out here utilizing this grass now as he's bringing them home.
So something that would work in both hot and cold weather was one of your considerations.
Right, and then if it gets to the point where this thing is actually freezing, they can be then utilizing water that's up at the house where we've got heated watering systems. So it'll work great for this type of situation we have here.
We're visiting with Carl Garten. We're in Dickinson County working on a solar powered water supply. This is Kyle Bauer reporting. Back to you, Jamie.
Stay with us for more Farm Factor as Kyle catches up with Herschel George, a K-State watershed specialist.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
When your living depends on agriculture, you can depend on KFRM 550 AM. If you're in the southwest three-fourths of Kansas or the northern half of Oklahoma, catch us at 5:50 a.m. on the radio dial. But if that isn't you, listen on your cell phone at TuneIn Radio or on your computer at KFRM.com. We promise to keep you informed, entertained, and company as you go through your day. KFRM 550 AM, the voice of the plains. We would like to join your management team.
I will take action against herbicide-resistant weeds. I will know my weeds, and I will stop them before they go to seed. I will do whatever it takes to give my crops the upper hand, and I will use multiple herbicide sites of action because every action counts. I will take action, this time for all time.
This segment is brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Welcome back to Farm Factor. Let's join Kyle and Herschel as they discuss the specifics of the solar pump.
Have the opportunity to visit with Herschel George as we're installing this solar pump and tank out here. Herschel has been, I'll say, the not necessarily supervisor, because we saw pictures of you doing everything, but you have pretty much supervised the entire project on how it's done. It looks like to me you've done a number of these.
Yes, many of them in eastern Kansas. We are not on wells. We're pumping out of ponds and streams, but yeah, we have a number of them in.
Now tell me about the pump selection and what we're seeing in the background on the solar array.
The number one things that we have to look at is how much volume we need, depending upon the number of cows and the size of tank we're using. The other thing is, for selecting the pump, we need to know how deep the water is. In this case, we were talking about water that was at 55 feet, I believe was the measurement we had. And you have to know that it's going to pump that 55 feet from the water surface in the well up to the top, and then calculate how many gallons a minute we'll have. Our goal here was to pump 3 gallons a minute to 4 gallons a minute, and the pump is rated at about 4.5 gallons a minute. So I think we'll be okay here.
We had almost the perfect day for a demonstration in that we had partly cloudy. It was amazing how the pump varied with whether the sun came out or not.
I'd like to demonstrate it on a day that is cloudy because people get to see the opportunity from full sun, which it pumps good stream. Everybody thinks it is going to pump a good stream. But then when it goes behind a cloud, we get that reduced stream. I've always told people that you need enough sun that you can see your own shadow. And when we can see our own shadow, in this case, it's just about right. You get a real good flow then. But before you have any shadow, you may or may not be getting any pumping of water to the surface.
Now, in this particular case, the well already existed, but otherwise, when you start getting involved with the installation, you have to start with a well and then do everything after that point.
I start with the water supply. And like I said, many of them in eastern Kansas were pumping out of hand-dug wells, which may only be 20 to 30 feet deep. Here we've got a drilled well, and sometimes we even go to wells in special areas that may be 200 to 300 feet deep. And those require a little different pump system and a different selection process. It all comes back then to how many watts of panel we need on top. You figure out how much work you ought to do, and then you figure the wattage that you need up there on top. Here we are running about 180 watts of power off of 2 solar panels, and then we run that through the control box, and that does a little voltage shift between when we have cloudy conditions and when we have full sun to optimize the operation of the pump.
When we come back, we'll be looking at the water storage and talk more with Herschel after that. Back to you, Jamie.
Folks, it's time to grab a cup of coffee, but don't go far away. Next is this week's Kansas Soybean Update.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Soybean Update.
This is the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Karen Hansen, registered dietitian with Hy-Vee, joins us. And Karen, you had the privilege of being a part of the farm food tour that took place across Kansas.
I did, Greg. We had a wonderful tour, very educational, and just a great time to get together with some other nutritionists and bloggers and people that are very interested in learning about agriculture. And
this really covered the whole gamut of those who are in production agriculture and maybe those who are not in production agriculture as well.
Exactly. We did. We got to see everything from how basil is grown to cow-calf operations, you name it, a wide variety of different types of agri represented.
I'm sure new experiences for some who are on the tour.
Yeah, a lot of the people on the tour were bloggers from the Kansas City area, and so these are primarily Kansas City and Wichita both, and they were primarily people that have not had a lot of exposure to agriculture.
What are some of the main reasons to get some of those who may not have a face with agriculture out to the state of Kansas to look at operations like this?
It's really a proactive approach because we have to get our ag messages out there. Unfortunately, we all know that there are a lot of negative and misinformed people out there on social media giving a lot of information that maybe isn't quite accurate, and it's a great chance for soybean and all the other commodities as well to get their messages out there in a very positive way and to dispel a lot of misbeliefs.
I'm sure some eyes weren't open up, but at the same time, probably respect for what these producers do.
Oh, my goodness. The farms and ranches, the places, the companies we visited are so dedicated and have so much science and so much information behind what they do to make it a very safe product and to make it a very profitable product for the ag industry. And I just think that was so eye-opening to these people. They had no idea of the amount of study, science, you name it, dedication that goes into those products.
Do you think this tour can grow in the future to be able to get more people like that into this tour?
I think that's a critical thing that we have to do because I think this is a hands-on, if you will, approach to really getting them out in the fields and getting them to see what is really going on in ag. I honestly think from the responses that I saw of those bloggers and people, we'll probably have waiting lines for these tours in the future. They're just that impressive and that important to what we're doing.
Karen, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
You bet, Greg. Thank you.
That is Karen Hansen, registered dietitian with Hy-Vee, and she was a part of the farm food tour that took place across Kansas. She's been our guest on the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Learn more at kansassoybeans.org. For Kansas Soybeans, I'm Greg Akagi.
Hope you enjoyed this week's Kansas Soybean Update. Stay tuned for more from Kyle and Herschel coming up next.
Biodiesel made from sustainable resources is diversifying our fuel supply. This year, biodiesel will displace over 1 billion gallons of fossil fuel nationwide. It's making our economy stronger and our communities healthier. It's working here and across America. Get biodiesel going in your community. Visit americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
HEINEN Brothers, a fourth-generation Northeast Kansas farm family, knows how tough farming can be. Farmers helping farmers. HEINEN Brothers Ag, selling and servicing crop protection products, fertilizer, anhydrous ammonia, cover crops, quality aerial and ground application. Call today to learn about our extended term financing program. 800-760-4964. HEINENBrothersAg.com.
This segment brought to you by Heinen Brothers Ag. Farmers helping farmers by offering quality aerial and ground application, fertilizer, ag chemicals, and anhydrous ammonia. Call today to protect your crop yield.
Welcome back. Let's catch up with Kyle and Herschel again as they discuss the details of the tire tank.
Well, we continue to be here with Herschel George as we've done this installation today in Dickinson County of a solar pump. And then also behind us, we see the tire tank that was used for the storage. In this particular case, Herschel, why did you choose a tire tank?
We're using the solar pump, and as you saw earlier today, sun goes behind the cloud, we don't get real good pumping, and some days it could be bad enough that you don't get any pumping. And so we need some storage for these cattle that might come by here and drink 2, 3, 4 times a day. And so to do that, we're using a large storage device, in this case the tire tank, to hold water, and our goal was to have enough for 3 days worth of storage, enough water that would water them for 3 days. And that way, if the solar pump is working even halfway, it'll more than take care of enough water for the cattle.
Well, and as we installed this tank, it wasn't just about the tank, the location of the tank, and prepping the ground around it was part of what you did as well.
After they decided where they wanted to tank, we needed to do a good job of leveling. The larger the tank, the more important it is to get that level. In this case, it was about an 11-foot diameter tire, and so just a little bubble off will be an inch off when you get 11 feet away. And so we had to be real careful. This tank is, it's off by maybe a quarter of an inch or maybe a half inch.
Now, the prepping the ground around it afterwards so the cattle have a good place to stand?
We put a geotextile fabric, and that's a piece of material that goes down between the soil and the rock. And what that does is prevent the rock from smashing down through and getting mixed with the mud, or the mud coming up through our rock. It is a big savings for rock over the next life of this project. We would like to think that you don't need to add rock for 4, 5, 6 years.
Stay with us as Kyle visits with Ken Bowell with the NRCS. That interview is next here on Farm Factor.
Hello, I'm Dr. Frank Lyons from Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center here in Manhattan, Kansas. Daryl was one of our patients that we did about 7 months ago.
I dug trees by hand for years and years and years. In the process, I wore out my rotator cuff. But when I learned about this process, I thought if there's a way to get rid of this pain, then I want to do it. So we did it, and it worked. And I'm not going to go out and dig trees with a shovel anymore, but I can do the things that I want to do now.
Well, it's been very gratifying to help people with their painful joints and other entities. And it's been especially gratifying to be able to help people who I know and have worked with and known for many years.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor as Kyle and Ken discuss how the NRCS has funding to help with water supply development for livestock operations.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer. I have the opportunity to visit with Ken Bowell. Ken is with NRCS, and NRCS is a major part of some of the funding on water supply development for livestock operations. Ken, I'm going to let you say what your title is and where you come into this mix.
I'm the Supervisory District Conservationist at Abilene, and in this particular case we have done some I have a program called the Environmental Quality Incentive Program that we're assisting with some costs on developing this tire tank and solar pump.
So how limited are those funds? In other words, how many different types of livestock watering situations can you help fund?
With this, the funds are annually brought out by USDA, so they vary. The next cutoff date, if you're thinking of applying, would be November 20th, so that's coming up here. So the funds are limited, so it's a competition. Other types of watering facilities we can do besides the solar pump, we could do I think windmills. We can also do spring developments. If you have are needing additional watering supplies to get better grazing in your pasture, we could do, if you had the pump already, and we could do a pipeline, a half-mile pipeline, quarter-mile pipeline to also to another tank to help your grazing distribution.
And generally the thought process with government-supported watering in pastures is to help change the grazing patterns and make the pasture more productive.
Yes, make it more productive and protect our resource, the grass resource that's out there. So that's basically what we're working for.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't understand that when there's water in just a portion of a pasture, cattle will overgraze in some areas and undergraze in others, and that doesn't use the resource completely.
That's correct. And you can also, if we could also put cross fencing in here to and put water on both sides of that and help with the grazing distribution.
So when you're looking at a competition between different people that have applied for it, what determines who's going to win that? I assume it's probably fairly complicated, but is it the first guy to apply, or what determines if you get funded?
No, there's a lot of factors. The location in the state, if there's endangered species, different things like that nearby. Also looked at if your grass is in good shape and there's no need for the practice, then we're not going to do the practice. If it's if we're going to cost share or give you funding, then you are also going to have a grazing plan and follow the grazing plan. We're not going to if the grass is not being properly grazed, we're going to have it be properly grazed if we're going to help.
So if a person is trying to get a cost share, do you get that before you start construction or after the construction?
It would be after, because we have the design and it has to meet our specifications, and then after it's done, then we will double check it. And in case of a tire tank, we're going to measure how many gallons and pay per gallon. So until we have it in the ground and know how big the tank is, we don't know what the cost share or what the payment rate will be.
We're visiting with Ken Bowell. We're in Dickinson County today on an Extension Field Day.
Thanks again for joining us at K-State's Extension Field Day in Dickinson County. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. See you next week on Farm Factor. We're here every Tuesday on Ag AM in Kansas.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agamInKansas.com.